is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of No Other Pod. I'm Jimmy, along with my good buddy Daniel Kooser for a very special Leagues Cup Victory Pod edition. What's going on, my friend?
Buddy, we are better than Mexico. It has been proven.
The entire country.
The U.S. wins every time. MLS is best in the world. Life is good, buddy.
It is funny because, so we went into this, we're going to talk about the game against Chivas. We're going to talk about the atmosphere because we both have thoughts on what it was like to be at that game. Two different perspectives, but lots to talk about there. It is kind of funny because, I mean, if you followed MLS for years, there's kind of been this like MLS is the little brother to Liga MX. Like they can't win CONCACAF Champions League until finally someone does it. And it's just kind of like this, will MLS ever catch up to Mexico? And I feel like, at least in the Leagues Cup, MLS has shown out. And we'll be like, oh, this is great. And I'm kind of like feeling some MLS pride. And then on the flip side, I have all these people talking shit because it's like, well, Messi can come in there and score 17 goals a game at will. So MLS must be real bad. I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Yeah, it's a weird time to be a fan, man. It's an interesting point in Major League Soccer. The Messi shit, I'm real excited to watch him play in Dallas pretty soon because
in Frisco,
it's gonna be hot.
Lionel Messi is gonna be in Frisco, Texas.
Well, dude, there should have been something in his contract where he's like, I only play home games.
I will not travel to some place called Frisco.
I don't leave Florida. That's just, it is what it is. That's my thing now. I'm Florida Messi, Florida man. But dude, this is it's exciting because MLS has kind of taken on these teams and they're kind of beating them and knocking them out of this tournament. And correct me if I'm wrong, is this a preseason tournament for them? Like they do miniature seasons in Liga MX.
They split it into two.
Is this kind of their little break between the two seasons right now?
Technically, they have just started. Oh, goodness.
Oh, yes. They're a few games in, right?
Yeah. I don't remember if it's the Apertura or the Clausura. But whichever one they just started, I want to say it's the Clausura that they just started. Mm-hmm. They are 3 games in. So Chivas has played 3 games in the Liga MX standings. They've won all 3 games. They were perfect 3-0-0. So, they're a pretty good team that we beat. But
yeah, supposedly, right? I mean, all these teams are decent, but they're not moving on, dude. And a lot of MLS teams are. And the round of 32 is getting started. But this tournament, I didn't know how to feel going into it. I was just kind of like, chaos. Let's see what happens.
Yeah,
it's free soccer. The first game's included in my season ticket package. This will be really fun, and it's kind of exceeded my expectations. And it's been really fun because people and us are rolling out starting lineups. They're as best as you can do. We have a striker that likes to headbutt people, but we're doing the best we can.
It was funny. I was occasionally I do some things on KCTV5 for KC Sports Network, and I was there after the game where Polito did the headbutt, and somehow I got to talking about it with somebody backstage, and they were like, yeah, I saw the clip and I had to like check with somebody to be like, can we show this on television? And I was like, okay, it wasn't that serious.
What?
Like, it wasn't like he pulled out a knife and just shanked a dude on the field. Like,
welcome to Christian KCTV5. Like,
I
what
was
the
like,
heck?
I appreciate that you guys are trying to be, good stewards of what you show to the people, but I think they'll be okay if they see Alan Polito accidentally headbutt somebody.
Oh my Lord. I guarantee you there's worse stuff on your station than that accidental headbutt.
Yeah, there's Sergio Busquets choking people on Orlando City, just grabbing them by the neck.
That happened?
Yeah, and of course he didn't get called.
What?
No, should be a
that
red
doesn't
card.
get reviewed or anything.
It wasn't. Orlando fans were understandably upset.
Oh my! See, that's the first I'm hearing of this, man. I only saw little highlights of Messi and someone kind of jabber-jawing a little bit,
Felipe.
Yeah. They were kind of having a conversation, and you know it's a heated conversation anywhere when someone does this and covers their mouth to speak.
So you can't read it.
This is how you say some shit, dude.
Yeah.
You can really curse them out that way.
There's no video evidence. Nobody's lip reading.
Yeah.
It's just he said.
Yeah. And I was like, is he calling NFL plays right now?
He pulls out a big old play sheet.
Just got a big old sheet. Terrible, man. Terrible.
I agree with you. It's been fun. I'm excited to talk about this game. It's been real good. I didn't really know what to expect from the Leagues Cup. I think we had an inkling that Peter may roll out as close to a first choice lineup as he could throughout these games, if for no other reason than otherwise it'd be like 4.5 weeks off for these players, and that's too much. But I mean, I don't want to say that like I'll be heartbroken if we don't win it, because I won't be, but I totally agree with you. I am surprised at how much fun I'm having watching the Leagues Cup game, and that's probably a product of, we know more than likely, even though there's still mathematically a chance, we know that this is probably Sporting's lone shot at hardware this year. They could get into the playoffs. They could make a run. But I think just kind of having that mid-season reset, especially since they already crashed out of the Open Cup, it's kind of fun to be like, oh, actually they can beat quality teams, and it's not too little too late.
It's possible, man. Defense is stepping up in big ways. Goalkeeping stepping up in big ways. We're getting people back from injury. You said you didn't know what to expect. The one thing I've come to expect, game in, game out at home games, is the piss poor security checkpoints when you get into the stadium. Buddy, it has gotten so bad. I don't remember it being like this in past years. I don't know what changed. I do know they upped the metal sensitivity, which seems kind of racist. Got a bunch of Mexicans coming. Need to bump up the metal sensitivity in the metal detector. Just throwing that out there, because my watch has never set it off, by the way. So it did. They have one basket. They're like, place your stuff in the basket. Zoop, grab your stuff. All right, next person. It's I don't know. It
goes very slow.
It's always slow. Anyone listening, if I'm being too nitpicky, please tell me. I would love to, put me in my place. That's fine. But if you agree with me, and I'm almost certain there's a majority of people that do, it's insane, man. It's insane.
I have heard anecdotally that people have thought that it's been a much slower process getting into the stadium. Obviously, I have a different way I go in. There's a media entrance because they have to check our bags for our computers. So usually it's pretty quick. But I would be lying if I said I didn't notice, as I'm walking to my media entrance, just masses of humanity trying to get into the stadium that I don't typically remember seeing. And I don't know if people are showing up closer to kickoff time, so they're trying to get more people in a shorter time because there's less to do out in the plaza than there used to be, or what. But
true, there's nothing to do on the plaza, so no one's showing up to go out there and try to have a conversation over some loud DJ and someone handing out coffee coupons.
Yeah, the music was too loud this last game in the plaza. I was walking by and I was like, it's loud. Literally hurting my ears. I had to plug my ears to make sure that they weren't ringing as I got up to the press box. But
you text me and I go, you sound old as shit right now. And you go, well, I am old.
Yeah, I was complaining from inside the press box about how loud it still was.
I was excited. I hadn't even left home yet, right? Because I was like, man, I'm going to try to get a little bit of a nap in. U.S. women play in the morning, which I didn't even get up to watch, by the way. That's a whole...
I stayed up and watched it. That was a mistake.
Jesus. That was dumb. I woke up at 2, and I wasn't up long enough to even turn the TV on, because then I ended up waking up at like 3:40 and watched the last 20 minutes of the game, which arguably was the most exciting part of that game.
All you needed to see, yeah.
Right. The post made an excellent save. It was a great time. But that being said, man, I got there like game time, right? And there was still a ton of people waiting to get in.
Yeah. I showed up, it was Monday night, so I was heading out there from work, and I knew that the kickoff wasn't until 9 p.m. So I'm like, I don't want to work that late. Like I stayed at work a little late, but I was like, I don't want to stay there that late. I'll just get down there a little early. I'll eat my press meal. I'll watch some other games or whatnot. I still got down there like, I don't know, 2.5 hours early. It was very early. It was before 7 when I got there. And there were Chivas fans everywhere.
Really?
I did not see a blue shirt to save my life, but I saw a bunch of red and white. There was just Chivas everywhere. And then I even had enough time where I walked over into the Legends a little bit. I was like, I'm gonna walk around, see what shops are here. It's been a minute. Chivas fans all over the Legends. Like they showed up, and they showed up early, and I was like, okay, well, this could go one of two ways. Either this is going to be a Chivas home game, essentially, and they're going to significantly outnumber the Sporting fans, or they all showed up early because they're excited. They don't get to see their team play very often, and then the Sporting fans will show up more at the normal time. No. It felt from where I was looking in the press box like it was like 6-1 or 7-1 Chivas fans to Sporting fans out there.
Dude, and let me throw a little shade to even our good buddy Chris. I'll throw shade to anyone who decided that selling their tickets for this game because maybe they wanted to make some money back, or maybe it was too late. Being too late's understandable. I understand if you got to get up. I took the day off work the next day. I was like, I'm not fucking with that. No one at work is going to want to be around me all grumps and stuff. But Chris sold his ticket, and I just text him. I go, bro, you're going to watch this on TV. You could be here. This environment was awesome.
It was electric.
Dude, it made me, I never once was tired. I never once was like bored. I was just like smiling at people, just like taking it in.
Yeah.
The Chivas fans chanted for 90 plus minutes.
Yeah.
I didn't hear the cauldron at all, but I was on the other end, obviously. Next
That's
to
a
the
bummer
Chivas.
because they had a full-on brass band in the
Yeah, they had a jazz orchestra.
They had a tuba, they had trombones, they had trumpets. It was incredible.
Dude, if they could just if they could play the soundtrack from Babylon, that Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie movie, that would be legit. Just play that the whole time. Look it up, people.
It was wild because you're right. The Chivas fans, they were chanting Chivas chants, and they had drums, and they had an official supporter section where usually the away fans are sort of like in that corner. But then they took
banners,
over.
Bro.
They took over the south stand. They basically took over the west stand. I couldn't see the east stand as much, or excuse me, they took over the east stand. I couldn't see the west stand as much underneath the press box, but it felt like that they were all over there too.
And here's the problem. Sporting season ticket holders have season tickets in that area.
Mm-hmm.
They do.
Yeah.
And a friend of my wife's, he's texting and says his seats are right in there, by the way. And he's like, I can't get to my seats. And I'm like, what the hell is he supposed to do?
Yeah.
Just because he's going to be forced to stand the whole game when he normally doesn't.
Yeah.
So he just went and found somewhere else to watch the game from. Now, this is where I'm like, why didn't Sporting reach out to people that have those seats and try to move them somewhere like they did with us for that Omaha game? Remember that?
Yeah.
So just very weird experience. And that guy didn't get to probably have the enjoyment that he wanted to have.
No, but it was definitely an electric atmosphere. I can't recall an atmosphere in the stadium quite like that, because even if you think back to some of the cup finals that we've been at, obviously we were not at the 2013 MLS Cup final because that was before our time around Sporting Kansas City. But I think back to the Open Cup against the New York Red Bulls in 2017, the final that was in Children's Mercy Park. Place was going crazy. It was nuts, but it was different because it was all Sporting fans, very few Red Bulls fans. So this is the most interesting game I've ever been at because I've never been at a home stadium where away fans took it over. And then the Sporting fans who were there, you probably couldn't hear because you were in the throes of the Chivas fans, but the Sporting fans who were there in the cauldron, they took it as like, okay, it's basically us and nobody else tonight. So we got to step up as best we can. And they were trying. I mean, obviously when the Chivas fans threw or started doing all their chants, they could drown out the Sporting fans that were there. But
dude, they were singing full on like popular songs. It sounded like they weren't just chants. I was like, oh, don't know what they're singing. I do not know the translation here, but I'm digging it.
But that's a bop. I like it.
Lame.
We're both
bunch of olds over here.
Old.
It's so loud.
Well, yeah, it was awesome. So we do want to get into the game, but I think before we get into the nuts and bolts of the game and what happened and our thoughts, we're going to take a quick break. And so we'll be gone for the commercials, and we'll be right back.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network. Entertain, educate, inform. KC Sports Network.
Did you say nuts and bolts? Because Nick said nuts and bolts.
I did.
Look at that, feeding you lines. You were like line, and he's like, I got you.
Yeah, our producer on top of it. He knows exactly when to cue us up, and he was right there, ready to go.
Yeah, I've just you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts and bolts.
I did want to give a quick shout out to Chris and I were at the KC Sports Network Foundation.
I heard your guys' little bromance over there in the rain.
Yeah, we were, just sitting together under a tree in the rain, just having some drinks together on a nice Saturday.
Oh my God.
But no, it was fun. It raised a lot of money for the KCSN Foundation. A lot of people came through, and it was a pretty cool event. But it was pretty hilarious because neither Chris or I were prepared for the rain that definitely came down. And so literally we're sitting under this tree on like the 11th hole. We're supposed to watch, like, it's like a hole in 2 challenge. And we're just basically supposed to be there to make sure that people don't cheat, and nobody did. But we're sitting there and it starts raining, and we're like, Chris goes, I'm wearing a white shirt. So, I brought an extra because I'm not trying to turn this into anything where people get a free show. And I'm like, I don't think you have to worry about that. I think it's probably going to be fine. But then lightning started hitting almost directly above where we were. It was super loud. And then the skies opened up and it starts pouring on us. And we have nowhere to go. And so we look at each other, we're like, well, I guess we're just going to sit in this. And so we just sat for 20 minutes in this pouring rain, just getting absolutely soaked, talking about God knows what.
Having a little deja vu. Chris told me all of this, but for people who do not listen to me and Chris, this is new information. Why's he got to be so suburban? Just free the nip, dude. Like, it's not a big deal. It's summertime. People go with their shirts off all the time. People would probably appreciate it if he did, because the man's got abs. Just gonna throw that out there right now. Makes us all feel bad.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to listen to Currently yet because we're recording this on the day that Currently came out, so it's obviously later in the week. But I'm glad he relayed our information. He did offer me a very delicious vegan protein bar.
Oh, he has vegan protein bars. Look at that.
He came prepared. He had a cooler. He had like 7 different cookies and cream vegan protein bars, and they were good. So
interesting.
But it was a good time.
Sounds fun. Good times. That's the thing, man. That summer storms, they just come out of nowhere. It's like going to Disney World, and it always rains like once a day in Florida. At some point, you're like, God dang it.
A lot, and it like floods the place, and then an hour later, it's like, oh, bright and sunny. So
right, and that's when you got to map that out. Oh, it's raining. That's perfect time. Hit that Space Mountain or something,
Of course, yeah. So, but it was fun. Glad we got to do it.
Good.
And then Monday came around. 9 p.m. game. We get there. Atmosphere's electric. I did think it was a little odd. They played the United States national anthem. I assumed they would then follow it up with the Mexican national anthem, which they did not do. So
also strange that they did it before the players even came out.
I didn't even realize that.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Wild, right?
If that's a Leagues Cup thing. Okay.
I don't know. It was weird to me. I was like, okay, I mean, do we care if they don't care? I don't know. The anthem always feels weird. And what am I trying to say?
We're the only country that does it that way, so it is a little different for people who aren't used to it.
Dictatorship-ish, like saying the Pledge of Allegiance and stuff. I'm like, I can't believe we did that in elementary school.
It is a little different.
It's like a cult.
But they play it. Game comes out. They're doing the lineups different. Every team supposedly has a goal song. I didn't register what our goal song was because we only scored the 1 goal, so I didn't even pay attention to know.
Oh, I know what our goal song is.
What is it?
Every freaking game, it's the same one, dude.
Yeah, it's the same for the tournament.
It's Get Up by the Bingo Players.
Okay.
And it's it's for the league too. I mean, it's carried over into Leagues Cup. So hell of a time. It's a great one. Put it on the list.
It was a fun game because we knew the lineup was going to be interesting because Alan Polito had been suspended not for 1 but 2 games because they thought the headbutt was
crazy to me.
That violent. I think it's a little overboard because this means that obviously if you're listening to this, that we beat Chivas. He's also going to be suspended for the Toluca game on Friday night.
And we kind of need to score goals against the team that's averaging 4 a game.
Yes, we will definitely talk about that because Toluca, probably isn't technically as good as Chivas, but they have been killing it in Leagues Cup. But
and they've been sitting on a dish of revenge for 4 years.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too. But it was interesting to see what this lineup was going to look like because you actually texted me, what was it, Sunday during the day? I don't remember. And you're like, Noah Frifa tomorrow. And I was like, what are you talking about? Did he get injured?
Oh, yeah.
I looked at the SKC2 lineup and Steven Afrifa, who's presumably one of the backup forwards that's available now, especially with Agata not being fully healthy, was starting for SKC2. So clearly he wasn't going to be the forward. And then the lineup comes out. And it's interesting because it wasn't Shelton, it wasn't Agata. They had Eric Tommy playing a false 9 with Gotti and Felipe in the midfield next to Remy Voltaire, with Johnny on the left and Kyrie on the right. And
switching it up, dude. Like, what bizarro universe was this?
Yeah, this was different, but I kind of dug it.
Yeah, and I'm so sad that Kyrie is so good and then so bad in like the final piece. Yeah. Like, Kyrie is such a monster, dude. And he gets that ball and he takes it from you, he holds on to it, and then that final pass comes, or the final shot, and it's just not there.
Yeah.
I hate that for him.
Yeah, there was a couple of moments where I was like, oh, this is it. And he didn't quite make the pass, or the run was just off, or he couldn't quite take the shot. Because I thought he had a good game overall. He was getting into dangerous spots, and he looked pretty good out there on the wing.
How about a Jake Davis appreciation podcast, though? That man stayed toe-to-toe with some of the best players out there, man. Some of the best players in Mexico.
Yeah.
And we talked about this every time, by the way. When that guy he was guarding would get the ball and his back was to Jake Davis was boom, right on him. And Jake actually talked about that, how that was planned. They planned for that.
It was a little badass. After we didn't get to go in the locker room because Leagues kept running this. We had a mixed zone in the hallway leading into the loading zone, which basically that's what they do for the national team games, where basically they have the backdrop, the players walk by, and all the reporters are out there as they walk by trying to ask them questions. Jake Davis is one of the players that came out, and someone asked, I forget who it was that asked, they were like, did you know that like Alexis Vega, he's like one of the better wingers in Liga MX, he's really fast, like this was going to be a huge challenge for you as a defender, like, you know, were you prepared for that? And what did you think, knowing that you were going up against a guy who's so fast and so big and whatnot? And he was just like, he was wearing all black, and he was kind of like leaning it back up against the wall because they'd already got the 3 points. And he said something like, yeah, that's what they tell me. And I was just like, God damn.
He just lights up a cigarette. Yeah, that's what I hear.
It felt like that. I was like, this dude had so much confidence, and he was like, but he was oozing it, and he was like, yeah, you know, that's what I heard, but we had a plan, and we executed it, and felt like it went well. And honestly, defense as a whole in Pulse Camp, Rosero had a couple moments.
But there's moments, bro. I get so I don't ever want to play the ball back to center backs. I don't ever want to have to do it. I don't really trust them in that capacity yet. I just sometimes when Fontas gets it, he does a little jitterbug step with his feet, and I'm like, oh my God, he's too nervous. Yeah. This is not good.
Yeah, it was.
But he's crazy. Fucking Fontas double guns. Look, he looks great, dude, and he's playing well. But there's just moments.
Yeah, he does have way more muscles than you think he should have when you just picture Andreu Fontas. I don't necessarily picture him like this jacked dude, but
he shouldn't look like a tight end with those biceps, dude. He's a soccer player. What are you doing? Soccer players skip arm day.
Yeah, I mean he's I don't know. He's got muscles and it shows up quite a bit. He's a pretty strong dude.
We could talk about his body for the entirety of this podcast. Like I'm not even above that.
It was, I don't know. It was just interesting to see the confidence from Jake Davis, but yeah, no, there were definitely times when, I felt like Rosero was a little iffy. Fontas was a little iffy. And yeah, I don't know. It was rough, but the front five, I'm calling it, which is Kyrie, Eric Tommy, Johnny Russell as the front three forwards, and then Gadi Kinda and Felipe Gutierrez. The thing I noticed about how they played, because Alan Pulido was not there to be the focal point of the offense, and Johnny's good, but he's not what he once was.
Mm-hmm.
The five of them seem to almost be like fluidly rotating across positions because they can all kind of play basically all of those spots. They're not necessarily their primary positions, but you'd look up and suddenly it'd be like Gotti in the striker position and Eric Tommy on the right wing, and Kyrie had dropped back or whatnot, and they were just so fluidly interchanging that I feel like it confused the defense a little bit.
It felt that way, man. I at first I didn't know Eric Tommy was going to false nine that. I thought maybe Kyrie was doing it. Isn't that always a fun thing when they release the lineup and there's no graphics? So you kind of got to build your own.
You got to guess.
Yeah, you kind of got to guess. And it's weird. It was weird seeing Eric Tommy up there. I think he did a decent job. I hate that we have to potentially do that again. What's this Willie Agata talk though? Is he apparently he's fine now?
He's fit, apparently, and he was available on the bench for selection, and he even warmed up at the end of the match with like 3 minutes left in the game, and I think it's because I read that he was taking penalty kicks in practice. They had one sub left at that point, and what I was curious is if you got one sub left and you're going into PKs, do you sub in Tim Melia for his first action in months?
Was Tim on the bench too?
Tim was on the bench too.
See, I didn't even see the bench, man. It was such a whirlwind of a day. God, Tim, we could see him sooner than later. I mean, obviously, if he's on the bench, he's absolutely available.
Yeah, I think, it'll probably be Pulse Camp against Toluca. But again, if it goes to penalties, you feel better with Pulse Camp or you feel better with Tim? I don't know.
Was it Sperry that asked him, a lot of teams use different goalkeepers for different competitions. Like that's kind of the thing.
Yeah.
And then Peter goes, he goes, is that what you're doing with John and Tim or John and Kendall? And Peter just goes, I think John's been playing, really well. And that's all he really said. And it's like, how come no one answers the goddamn question anymore? What the heck?
It is pretty funny. But, Sporting pretty much dominated in the midfield and with that front five. Chivas is largely a possession-based team like Sporting. And if you looked at what happened throughout the entire game, essentially, Sporting had the front foot basically the entire time. If you look at the possession numbers, it was 63-37. Sporting 14 shots to 7, 3 on goal to 1. This is 663 passes to 387. They almost doubled the passes that Chivas had.
And something that cannot go overlooked is we stayed off of the discipline chart, man. We no one got a yellow on our
discipline
team.
Chart. Absolutely.
In fact, they damn near doubled our fouls. Like they were getting pretty chippy towards the end. You could tell they were getting a little desperate.
They were. It was. I think I tweeted out with about like 20 minutes to go. I was like, if this thing stays, a 1-goal game for another 5 minutes, it's about to get real CONCACAF-y.
Right. And
it was going to get do or die.
Pulse Camp didn't have shit to do, by the way. A single save.
Yeah.
That's all you can ask, man. That's a good night for a keeper.
Well, they had 7 shots. 4 of them were blocked shots, which means that of the 7 shots they took, 4 times defenders stepped in front of them and blocked the shot from even getting anywhere near the goal. So they couldn't be on target if they wanted them to.
Love that. Love it. So, when defense is doing their job, goalkeeper can have an easy night.
And I feel like that's been a problem for Sporting, is letting people have too much space around the box. So being able to step up and block more than half of the shots that your opponent takes before they even get a chance to get anywhere near the goal, it's awesome. It's wonderful.
It's awesome. I as we all know, Johnny Russell scored a goal in the 27th minute.
Mm-hmm.
However, I kind of wish Eric Tommy would have scored a freaking bicycle kick prior to that. Would that have not lit the place on fire?
Well, so what's funny, and I didn't realize this until we were talking to Johnny after hoop. By the way, Johnny, incredible suit he was wearing after the game. This dude looked like he was ready to go to the Oscars or something. He had, the double-breasted suit with the tie and the matching pocket square. Like, he looked sharp. But it was funny because I kind of jokingly asked him at the end. I was like, Eric's bicycle dummy. That was all part of the plan, right? And he was like, what's actually funny is because he did that and it took attention away from the defenders because you can see them kind of stop. They're like, Eric gets the assist. Gotti was kind of pissed about it because Gotti didn't get his assist because the assist goes in the book to Eric because that's really...
Is that right?
That's what Johnny said. I haven't looked.
Even though he didn't touch it?
That's what Johnny said. So, and if you look on MLSsoccer.com...
It's official, though. Eric Tommy did assist.
It says Eric Tommy assist. So
Eric Tommy talked about that today, by the way, after training. And he was just like, no, that's ridiculous. That goes to Gotti.
It should, but in the books, it goes to Eric. So
that's wild.
But I mean, that goal, it was incredible. It was nice to see Johnny, and it's different. We don't get to see Johnny do that all that often because he's a left-footed player who plays on the right side. He's inverted because Peter likes him to be able to cut in on his dominant foot. Right. So this was an unusual case where Johnny was kind of left wide open in the box on the left side. Gotti sends an across that Eric misses, and then Johnny, first time, perfect with pace and power, right skimming along the ground, sends it into the bottom right corner of the net right in front of the cauldron. I didn't think one goal was going to be enough. I think I even said, like, this is great, but more goals are coming.
Apparently not. Hitting it first time is that was probably the best chance of scoring that goal. Caught the keeper off guard, went back the other way. He had time to bring it down. He had time to settle it if he wanted to. I think the chances of scoring maybe go down a little bit if he does that.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. The way it just slices into the corner of the net like that, that was baller.
It's interesting because the amount of technique, though, that's needed to first time fire it, one, on frame, two, keep it low like he did and have the power along with the accuracy, it's incredible because the most likely scenario when you're trying to do that first time is you're going to shank it one side or the other, or you're going to get underneath it and it's going to go flying over the net. How often do you see people try to go first time volley and it just goes flying 10 yards to the left of goal and, way over the bar? And Johnny was able to keep it not only down, but on frame and perfectly placed in the bottom right corner. That was some vintage Johnny that we saw.
It was awesome. But I felt the same way, though. I was like, man, there's no way they don't score something on us. Like, and then, come down to the wire like that towards the very end, you just know you're like setting yourself up for heartbreak. It's almost 11 o'clock and you're like, we're going to be here for another half hour for penalties, aren't we? Like, there's no way we don't go to penalties.
I mean, Johnny had other opportunities. He almost scored in the 13th minute when he fired one just off over the bar. Gotti Kinda had a volley that I think the goalkeeper just got enough of where a defender was able to get back and clear it off the line. That could have been a second goal.
Yeah, that was sick.
There were multiple opportunities for Sporting Kansas City. I think if you look at the XG, it was somewhere around 2, if I remember correctly, that I saw. So, it was definitely a dominant win for Sporting. It was a needed win because they could have gone to penalties and still wanted penalties and moved on, but that would have been much more nerve-wracking. So I think it was really important for Sporting to get the win in regulation, and they closed out a game. How many times have they been up by one goal and they couldn't close it out? They did it, and that's huge.
Pretty huge. Never had a 1-0 victory, apparently. All season, we've never won 1-0. So
yeah, it's the first time.
Then Peter was quoted as saying, I always say you only need to score once to win a soccer match. And I'm like, bullshit, dude.
Do you always say that?
We've been saying that this team kind of needs to score 3 to win a soccer match. I'm just saying. Yeah. I would love some 1-0 victories, though. If we can have some stingy defense like that, I'm in.
Yeah. So he did say it's probably our best performance all year. It's some very high praise. And then before we go to our break real quick, I did just want to point out this quote from Panovich, the coach of Chivas, who you may recognize as a former Chicago Fire coach.
Yes, former clown fire coach. Absolutely.
This was in Spanish. So, there was a little bit. Well, actually, this part might have been in English. Most of his answers were in Spanish. He did do a couple in English. But this
try out the Spanish. Go.
My favorite quote from the night. In the first half, they absolutely dominated us. We sucked. So good analysis from Panovich there.
That was great, man. Way to get out of, MLS because you wanted a more challenging league just to come on back and lose to the 11th place team in the West.
Yeah, I mean, that was another thing he said. He goes, it's clear that we're just not on the level of some of these teams. And I was like,
so you're not on the level of 11th place Sporting Kansas City. All right, you trash, bro. You trash.
Pretty funny. But no, it was a fun game. Glad we got to do it. There was a fight in the plaza after the game. There's video on Reddit.
What the hell is that about? It was like Chivas on Chivas crime. It was not like Sporting people picking fights with Chivas people. They were fighting their own people.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen, sometimes fan bases disagree with each other in their own fan base. I don't know. It's weird.
Some guy some guy clearly wasn't even in the fight. He just runs from afar and he's like, I'm going to get a punch in. And he like punches this guy like right in the back.
He's like, I've always wanted to fight.
Yeah. I've always wanted to throw hands. And it's like, you all are very small people, like emotionally and physically. Like, what are you even fighting about?
Yeah.
Go home, go have another beer at home. All right. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. So anywho, it's a fun game. Next is Toluca. So we're going to talk about that game and what Sporting can do to try to move on to the round of, 16 after this? But we'll be right back after the break.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network. Entertain, educate, inform. KC Sports Network.
First of all, I want to preface this by saying I will be fine. But you ever think about what happens when we're recording live and you need to go to the restroom?
I've thought
because this is not like back in the day, buddy, when you just like vamped and I went to the bathroom and peed with like you in my headphones.
That did happen.
It was a weird time, back when we were just tiny people.
You would like type to me or motion to me, like, hold on, keep going. And I would just filibuster, knowing that you were listening to me talk while you peed.
And this Throwback Thursday here, man. Looking back on the good old days, huh?
What a time.
Yeah. But I will be fine. I'm letting you know. I don't need Nick to come on and be like, all right, we're paused, go pee. No, I'm okay. I'm a grown man.
Good. Well, I'm proud of you. Good job. We did have at the city where I work, we did have what was called a fecal incident at the community center pool not long ago. We did have to close it.
You had the old Baby Ruth in the pool, did you?
The Code Brown. So
oh no,
it happens occasionally, but
you've seen Caddyshack, I assume.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not the one else to clean it, thankfully, but it happens. So.
Wow. Okay. Was this an adult or a child?
I assume it's a child. I hope so. I was not.
Don't ever assume, buddy. Don't ever assume.
Yeah. Well, it's a little. Yeah. Well, who knows? Moving on. So now we host Toluca Friday night. Might be tonight if you're listening to it on Friday in Children's Mercy Park. And if you're sitting there thinking Toluca, that sounds awfully familiar. Toluca.
Right. It's a vanilla liqueur. Oh, is that Tuaca?
Toluca, we played in February of 2019 in the CONCACAF Champions League.
And smushed them.
And absolutely destroyed them across two legs. We won 5-0 on aggregate, 3-0 here in Kansas City. We won 2-0 in Mexico. Their own fans were doing the ole against Toluca. I mean, it was one of the better moments I remember being a Sporting Kansas City fan, because in that moment when we're watching the second leg on TV, they're dominating a Liga MX team in Mexico. Their own fans are making fun of them. I was like, we're about to be the first MLS team to win Champions League.
You were like, we can do anything. There's no way Monterrey beats us by 9-goal aggregate, you know?
And then it was 10-1?
It wasn't great. Yeah, they beat us by 9 total, I think. And is there any chance that, first of all, Chivas is like the premier team in Mexico, right? Like everyone's a Chivas fan. Kind of like if you want to pick a Premier League team, okay, Man U is probably the most rich club, right?
Yeah, Chivas is definitely one of the most popular. There's Chivas, Tigres, America.
Tigres, yeah. Will we have Toluca supporters at this game? I mean, probably not.
There'll be some, but it won't be like Chivas. And I also think that maybe since one, it's a Friday, not a Monday, it's 8 p.m. instead of 9 p.m., and it's a knockout round instead of group stage, I expect more Sporting fans will be there. But it's hard to know because, correct me if I'm wrong, you're a season ticket holder. This game wasn't included in your season tickets. This is an extra purchase, right?
It's an extra purchase. That's right.
So that's interesting. I mean, how many people are able to make plans 3 days out to just be like, oh, yeah, I don't have anything going on Friday. I'm going to bring me or my family to a soccer game.
It's tough because you don't, before the Monday game happened, you don't really know when we're going to play again. It could have been Thursday. It could have been Friday. We didn't know where that game was going to fall. So when the win happens, it's just like, all right, glad I'm not doing anything Friday. Hey, let's make another trip up there.
I assumed it'd probably be Friday just because I'd be like, dang, late Monday to Thursday, that's a real quick turnaround. But you never know. I mean,
well, now the games come. Like it will be every 4 days. every 4 or 5 days, the next stage will be played.
Yeah, so they don't have. If you look at the bracket, they don't really say exactly when the next game is, but
Right.
What I do know is the next round of games. So we're playing on August 4th. The quarterfinals would be a week from Friday. So that means it probably would be like a Tuesday game. So if we're playing on Friday, then we probably have a game on Tuesday. And if we win that, then we're back to Friday. So yeah, you're right. It's like every 3 to 4 days before we get to the final, which is on August 19th, which is wild. We're recording this late on August 3rd. You're probably listening to this on August 4th. We would have to win 1, 2, 3, 4 more games between now and 2 weeks from now, essentially, if we win this thing.
We have not had any kind of winning streak of that caliber all season. So if that happens, very cool. Let's ride the wave, baby.
Yeah.
However, you know that if you win this game, you got to go on the road. You got to face either the winner of Columbus Crew and Minnesota United.
Mm-hmm.
So you will not have another home game after this. So you kind of got to take advantage of it. You know, you don't have a Mexico team next.
Yeah, and this is going to be really tough because, okay, in Liga MX so far in their season, they're 1-1-1. They only have 4 points, so they're not as good as Chivas. But as you mentioned, Toluca scored 8 goals in their first 2 group stage games. No team scored as many as Toluca. They scored 4 across 2 games. They won against Nashville 4-3, and they won against the Rapids 4-1. So
see, first of all, that shows they can be scored on. They can absolutely be scored on. Johnny's got to come to play. Maybe Kyrie gets lucky or something. I mean, I do believe we can get it done Friday, but it's not going to be easy work.
It's possible, but again, this is going to be interesting. They have a high-powered offense because I think it said, if I'm looking at by the numbers, I can't find it now, but I think they said it's been like 8 goals from 7 different players or something like that. And what's wild and confused me, I'm pretty sure their goalkeeper takes their penalty kicks. Is that what this said? Because it says goalkeeper Thiago Volpe has scored 7 goals in 46 appearances from Toluca across all competitions, each coming from the penalty spot. He has converted all 7 penalty kicks he has taken for the club, including one in Toluca's 4-3 win at Nashville on July 27th.
Well, that's insane because then yeah, and then it does say he leads Toluca with 3 goals this season in all competitions, all from the penalty spot. So that's weird. And then it's like, then it talks about how many penalties he's saved over his career. Right. What the hell?
That'd be like,
that's fun.
I need it. I almost need to see a penalty now because I've never in my life seen a goal. Because if it gets saved, now it's a race to the opposing goal because there's no goalkeeper.
Ooh, that would be.
Can you
wild,
just imagine like Kyrie in a foot race with this goalkeeper, and they're both just running parallel to each other, like trying to figure out like who's going to get there first? Like
there'd be a foul before that happens. There would be some malicious foul.
Be a red card.
Yeah, essentially. But I think they would take that to give up the goal, right? Like that's what you do.
Yeah, it's wild to me. I've never heard of this in my life.
How about the players who scored last time we played Toluca? Ever heard of them? Christian Nemeth, Gerso Fernandez, and Ilya Sanchez?
Yeah, they're not on the team anymore.
Yeah, rest in peace, fellas. We miss you.
So, but Toluca, their offense is very good. They have 8 goals from 7 different players, and they average 61.7% possession through their first 2 Leagues Cup games, eclipsing 61% in each game. So this will be interesting because, again, 2 possession-based teams. Sporting had 63% possession in the first game. Toluca's averaging 62% possession. Whose midfield's going to dominate? Can Sporting's defense and midfield replicate the shutout that they had against Chivas again? I don't know. It's going to be tough.
There's no way we shut them out. Dude, they're scoring like that. That's crazy. That's a crazy rate of scoring per game. They're going to be hype. We need to be more hype. And I don't want to go to penalty shootouts at all.
I mean, it feels like them getting a couple of goals in this game is very possible, which means Sporting is going to have to find a way to get a couple of goals or 3 goals if they want to avoid a penalty shootout. I could see this game being a 3-2 game or a 2-2 game and going to a penalty shootout. So,
let's hope not. Let's hope not.
It'll be interesting. There were definite opportunities for Sporting beyond the 1 goal they scored. we might see Willie Agata more. I don't know. We'll see.
We might see Tim Melia if it goes to penalties and they sub him in.
Yeah,
because like, don't you feel better about Tim for penalties than John?
I do, but at the same time, that's a big ask of somebody to be like, hey, you haven't played in like 4 months. Now go save penalties in a knockout round of a tournament.
Like what Philly did with that John McCarthy in the U.S. Open Cup. They subbed him in at the end of the game, and he doesn't usually play. Yeah. But they're like, you're the PK guy.
So this, I think this is going to be a very fun game. I think this will be a fast-paced game. I think this will be an offensive game. I hope it's entertaining, and I hope obviously Sporting come out with the victory.
Well, I hope we're recovered as well as we can. Luckily, Toluca's on the same kind of rest that we are, but they got to do a little traveling because we got a hell of a break between Cincinnati and Chivas. Chivas was not that lucky. They actually had to play Cincinnati twice, Thursday night, and then the rest of the game Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
So kind of weird that they've, had to do that.
It was weird. But yeah, this is fun. And I don't know if Sporting would be able to get through all the way to the final, because if you look at some of the other teams that are on their side of the bracket, LAFC, who's beating teams 7-1 and just adding more and more players.
Crushing them.
Tigres, historically very good. Monterrey, we are all very familiar with Monterrey. Columbus Crew, who have been very good, although they just sold their best player to Saudi Arabia. And then Club America, Cincinnati, and Nashville, all very quality teams. So that's a little bit of a gauntlet. And then you look at the other side of the bracket. Yeah, Pumas, okay. Philly and DC, they're playing right now as we're recording this. Okay, that's fine. It's basically the Miami show over there. It's Miami's bracket to lose. It's Leo Messi's bracket to lose.
Pretty much. Man, it'd be so crazy to go all the way, though, and maybe host Miami in the final,
That'd be wild.
How are they determining hosting? Because there are no seeds, right? There's no seeding.
I'm sure it'd be a draw of some sort. I don't know exactly. I know it's a little easier when it is a Mexican team playing because all the games are being played here in the States, which feels a little weird.
It's weird, except for one game. Didn't they play at a neutral site in Frisco?
In Dallas. Oh, yeah, I thought so.
And God, who was it?
Wasn't Vancouver involved? I don't remember.
I'm not sure about that. I actually think it was a U.S. team, and I'm drawing blank. So,
but
that happened.
That's something that I would be interested in them changing. And I know maybe it's for travel logistical purposes since these games are like 3 days apart, that flying back and forth to Mexico.
Charlotte FC was the team that played Cruz Azul in Frisco, Texas.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
So, I don't know. I'm having fun this tournament though.
Yeah.
It's a great way to stay interested between now and the next MLS game. So, I'm all in.
Agreed. I mean, what are you doing if you don't have this tournament? You're just kind of sitting around not watching
loaning
soccer.
Your players to SKC2.
Yeah, essentially. I don't want to lose because that's going to give us one hell of a break.
Yeah.
And I don't want that time off.
Yeah. It'll be tough. Matt Doyle, he wrote a column for MLSsoccer.com where he ranked the League's Cup contenders by tier. So like tier 1 are the heavy favorites, and tier 2, tier 3, etc. So tier 1, he put Monterrey, Tigres, and Club America, the 3 powerhouse Liga MX teams.
Sure.
Tier 2, he called legit contenders. I'm not going to read all of them, but LAFC, Cincinnati, Columbus. Toluca actually is in tier 2 as a legit contender. And if you look at what he says about Toluca, he says super dynamic wingbacks that we saw in the 4-3 win over Nashville. They are able to make the field huge and put fractures in the diamond and pull it apart. And they followed it up with a comfortable 4-1 win over Colorado. So they're going to make it wide. They're going to try to use all the field. So it'll be interesting to see how Jake Davis can handle it. Then there's tier 3, which is only Miami. It's the special Miami tier because it's like they're bad except they have Messi. And then there's the last tier, which is tier 4. And of course, that's where Sporting Kansas City is. So,
what's that tier titled?
The uphill climb.
Sure. And we know that. What's it been all year?
These are teams that, frankly, I do not think can win this thing. So,
It's been uphill all year, buddy. We've been into the playoffs, then we're just right outside, then we're way at the bottom. Now we're just right outside again. But oh wait, other teams have like 3 games in hand. It's weird, man. It's an uphill climb the rest of the season. So if you think they don't know that and that they're not preparing for that, you're wrong.
Yeah, he said Sporting were excellent against Cincinnati before Allen got his red, and they looked comfortable pulling Chivas apart, controlling the tempo in their 1-0 win on Monday night. I do not think they have enough to do that 4 more times.
Yeah, it's rough. I think if you get past Toluca, that's a hell of a mountain to climb. And I'd feel a lot better playing Minnesota and Columbus if we get through this huge obstacle.
Yeah. So we'll see. I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's turned into the Messi show this tournament because it's his first appearances with Inter Miami, and he's scoring bangers of goals that are making people think that MLS defense is as bad as they want to believe it is. And I don't know, maybe it is, or maybe he's the greatest player of all time. Who knows?
Yeah.
It could be a couple of them or a combination, but
totally.
I know the goal that he scored in combination with Joseph Martinez, it looked like a Globetrotters goal. I mean, they're just toying with people.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. Someone named Robert Taylor, who we've never heard of, is now suddenly getting like 3 assists a game because he's just whipping the ball into Lionel Messi. So
it's weird. Who can stop this man? I don't get it.
Apparently not MLS teams.
Wow.
And he looks like he's having the time of his life, and now he's just shit talking other MLS players.
Yeah. So. He's never talked shit his whole career. And now he's on. Now he's chatting it up.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I'm having a great time. I'm excited to watch this game against Toluca. I think it'll be fun. I hope they can pull it off. I think they can. I think it'll be tough. But
yeah,
I'd like to think we'll be back here next week with another Leagues Cup victory pod.
Okay. All right. You're a little much. You're on one. But
I'm not predicting it. I'm just saying I'd like to think.
Okay. I thought this was a prediction. I was like, Jimmy's had too much bubbly.
No. No, I have. I am not predicting it because this could go either way, but I do think this will be a fun, fast-paced game.
Yeah, I mean, we're gaining some confidence, right? And that confidence can only carry over into league play as well. So if we start to play well and continue to play well here,
you never know.
That translates to potentially a playoff spot, man.
Absolutely. So I think that's about all I have for this week. You got anything else for our good listeners?
No, nothing else. I'm pumped. Hope you guys get out there and get loud because we know the Mexican supporters get loud.
They do. It'll be fun. You going to be up at 4 a.m. for the women's game on Sunday?
That's the plan. Yeah. I mean, get that Saturday afternoon nap going, and 4 a.m. is not much earlier than my normal 5:30 wake up. So
yeah, you get up early anyway. So I didn't intend to stay up all the way through the Portugal game, but I got home from the Chivas game and it was like 1:15. And I was like, might as well start the game. And
just wasted time, didn't you?
Then I was like, surely they'll be up enough where I can go to bed at halftime. I don't need to stay up for this whole thing. And then it was 0-0. And I was like, God damn it. Now I can't go to sleep.
When I woke up at 3:40, I was like, shit, I've missed the whole thing. I bet we're up by 2 goals or something. And I turn it on. And I'm like, oh, I've missed nothing.
Oh,
wonderful.
I still got to see the post of the match, make the save.
Wild. That's a whole different story that we're talking about.
But, well, thank y'all so much for listening. We appreciate you. Hopefully y'all are having the same amount of fun that we're having with the Leagues Cup. If you're a Sporting fan and you got your ticket, show up, get loud. Let's show up for the players, because I talked to a few of them after the game, and they noticed it was mostly Chivas fans, and they said we could feed off of it, but they'd like to see more Sporting fans. So if we can do it, let's do it. But in the meantime, make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram and Threads and Blue Sky and whatever else is out there, at No Other Pod, at Dan Kooser, at JCMac03. Send us an email, nootherpod@gmail.com. Check us out on the KCSN Soccer YouTube channel and the KCSN app. And make sure you leave that 5-star rating and review. But until next time, he's Dan. I'm Jimmy. We'll catch y'all later. See ya.
Just out here making up social networks.